NATO wraps up its not-so-happy 70th birthday. Day 2 saw Donald Trump call his Canadian counterpart two-faced after Justin Trudeau was caught mocking him on camera. A new phase of impeachment proceedings gets underway in Washington with hearings by the House Judiciary Committee, a body known for its theatrics and partisan brawls. And the middleman in the murder of Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia accuses a businessman of being the sole mastermind in her killing, as an EU delegation advises the Prime Minister to step down immediately. Hello and welcome back to the France 24 newsroom. I'm Allison Sargent. Thank you for joining us. It ended with a statement of unity, but the 70th anniversary NATO summit was largely marked by infighting. Day 2 saw a hot mic moment in which a group of leaders, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, were caught making fun of Donald Trump. In response, the U.S. president slammed his Canadian counterpart as two-faced. In some cases, the conflict proved productive, though. Leaders agreed that the French president's calling NATO brain-dead forced them to confront questions of the alliance's relevance. Monty Francis takes us through some of the day's events.
We stand together, all for one and one for all.
On the second and final day of the NATO summit outside London, leaders from the 29 member countries reaffirmed the strength of the historic alliance.
The fact that we live in peace today demonstrates the power of the simple proposition at the heart of this alliance.
But there has been disagreement in the alliance over member country Turkey. Turkish President Erdogan wanted other NATO members to agree that Kurdish forces in northern Syria are terrorists. But after pushback from French President Emmanuel Macron and others, Erdogan backed off the demand. U.S. President Donald Trump met with Erdogan on Wednesday, saying that the Kurds were part of their discussion.
I think we discussed Syria, we discussed the Kurds. Ceasefire is holding very much so, and I think people are surprised. And maybe someday they'll give me credit, but probably not. And we pulled our soldiers out. We took over the oil. We have soldiers where the oil is. That's the way I like it.
Summing up the accomplishments of the meeting, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said NATO's commitment to Article 5, that an attack on one member is an attack on all of NATO, remained ironclad. Also, there was a commitment to discuss strategic issues. In an official statement, the alliance cited Russia as an ongoing threat, saying, Russia's aggressive actions constitute a threat to Euro-Atlantic security. Terrorism in all its forms and manifestations remains a persistent threat to us all. Sentiments echoed by the French president.
We know how Russia involves itself in other countries' internal affairs, their campaign of political interference, the violation of international rights. If we want to move on, we have to re-engage the dialogue.
NATO members also agreed on a plan to bolster the defenses of Baltic states and Poland against Russia.
Well, Donald Trump had to miss the new phase of impeachment proceedings that got underway in Washington this Wednesday. The House Judiciary Committee began hearings to determine whether or not they'll press formal charges against the president. It comes after Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee published a report saying there was overwhelming evidence of misconduct. In Wednesday's proceedings, the committee heard testimony from 4 constitutional law experts. They also did some verbal sparring of their own. Jean-Emile Jamin has the details.
President Trump did not merely seek to benefit from foreign interference in our elections. He directly and explicitly invited foreign interference in our elections. He used the powers of his office to try to make it happen.
Aiming for a heavy blow right from the outset. The House Judiciary Committee's first impeachment hearing quickly burst into partisan infighting on Wednesday, as Democrats charged that President Donald Trump must be removed from office for enlisting foreign interference from Ukraine in U.S. elections. Republicans then angrily retorting that there were no grounds for such drastic action. The first round of impeachment hearings gave the House an opportunity to hear the testimony of legal experts. 3 of the 4, chosen by the Democrats, called for the impeachment of the president.
President Trump has committed impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors by corruptly abusing the office of the presidency.
everything I read on those occasions tells me that when President Trump invited, indeed demanded, foreign involvement in our upcoming election, he struck at the very heart of what makes this a republic to which we pledge allegiance.
The Republicans' own choice not so easily blown away.
It's not wrong because President Trump is right. His call was anything but perfect. It's not wrong because the House has no legitimate reason to investigate the Ukrainian controversy. It's not wrong because we're in an election year. There is no good time for an impeachment. No, it's wrong because this is not how you impeach an American president.
Political risks for both Republicans and Democrats remains high, as the House presses only the fourth presidential impeachment inquiry in U.S. history.
China is warning that the U.S. will pay a price after the House of Representatives passed a bill punishing Beijing for its crackdown on the Uyghur minority. Analysts say the legislation could jeopardize a deal meant to end the trade war between the two countries.
These are so-called re-education camps where human rights advocates say more than 1 million Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities are being held and abused. China once again denied the allegations Wednesday after the U.S. Congress passed a bill condemning the camps.
We urge the U.S. side to immediately correct its mistake and prevent the bill from becoming law. As for what action China might take, everyone can stop being so anxious. The price that must be paid will come eventually.
The bill is called the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act of 2019, and it passed Tuesday by a vote of 407 to 1. The legislation calls for the closure of the mass detention camps and threatens sanctions against Beijing. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said abuses by China include solitary confinement, beatings, forced sterilization, and other forms of torture.
We are sending a message to Beijing. America is watching, and we will not stand silent. This legislation helps uncover the truth. It creates accountability, ensuring transparency of Chinese and foreign companies involved in the camps.
U.S. President Donald Trump had already angered Beijing after signing legislation supporting pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. The revised bill concerning the Uyghurs still has to be approved by the Senate before being sent to President Trump. The White House has not yet said whether Trump would sign or veto the bill.
The middleman in the murder of investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia testified this Wednesday. The taxi driver told a Maltese court that businessman Jorgen Fennick was the sole mastermind behind her 2017 killing. Fennick has already denied the accusations and blames senior government officials. The case has cast doubt on the rule of law in Malta, and an EU Parliament fact-finding mission has recommended that the Prime Minister step down immediately. Ellen Gainsford has more from the Maltese capital.
Well, I'm in front of Europe House here in Valletta, the capital of Malta, where we've been following a team of MEPs who are here on a fact-finding mission. And they're here to see whether the rule of law is being respected. As, of course, follows the murder of investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, who was killed by a car bomb in 2017. But the problems here range beyond more than just one person, as allegations of corruption reaching to the highest levels of government and institutions, including the judiciary. Well, we can take a listen now to the head of that delegation of MEPs, Sophie Antveld, who earlier told us what she's learned over the past 2 days.
Well, we are very concerned with what we have seen. We do feel that there are very serious risks to the rule of law. We see a lot of corruption. We also see a lot of insecurity and distrust, people not knowing what is happening. So the European Parliament is really going to follow this very, very closely. We're also going to call on the European Commission to immediately start a dialogue in the rule of law framework.
Well, Prime Minister Joseph Muscat has said that he'll be stepping down in January. But for many people here in Malta, that won't solve the country's problems. They're calling for profound constitutional and structural changes.
In Algeria, a major corruption trial got underway this Wednesday. The accused include 2 former prime ministers, prominent politicians, and tycoons from the automotive industry. Their defense lawyers boycotted the proceedings, saying they're politicized. Mario Sofos has the details.
The heavy security detail in place at the Sidi Mamed court in Algiers didn't stop a rush of people outside the doors of the courtroom on the opening day of a corruption trial of two former prime ministers, Ahmed Ouyaya, the Bouteflika era's last head of government, and Abdelmalek Sellal, who led the government from 2012 to 2014. The accused face charges including money laundering, misappropriation of public funds, and granting undue privileges. 3 former ministers of industry and numerous former automotive tycoons are also defendants in the trial, which is being carried out without defence lawyers.
Today, the lawyers decided to boycott the hearing, and the court president decided to continue the trial of all the defendants.
They have all boycotted the proceedings, saying the conditions for a fair trial had not been met and that the government was politicising the case in light of the upcoming presidential election on December 12th. Enraged citizens outside the court on Wednesday denounced the accused and those who seek to defend them.
We are gathered here today against those thieves who are ridiculing us. We'll be here every morning and every night. We feel harassed and insulted. For them, this is just a game.
To the lawyers defending the accused today, I say this: you sold your country today and you dishonored yourself. If you are men, you wouldn't sell your country. The accused have betrayed their homeland.
The trial is the first time since Algeria's independence from France in 1962 that former prime ministers have been put on trial.
Well, here in France, people will be waking up to transportation chaos this Thursday, the first day of a major general strike over retirement reform. Authorities warn of major disruption, and French commuters have been scrambling to find alternative forms of transportation. Clément Bonnereau tells us more.
By law, public sector transport workers must give their employers 48 hours notice of their intention to strike. This allows the French railway operator SNCF to announce its traffic plans at least 24 hours before disruptions begin. Based on the information it's received, the company has warned about major transport chaos on Thursday, with only 1 in 10 trains running as normal. The best served routes will be the high-speed TGV lines between Paris and other major cities in France, including Bordeaux, Lille and Marseille. Meanwhile, around half of Eurostar trains, including 16 between Paris and London, have already been cancelled, according to the company's website. Also striking are employees of RATP, which runs Paris's public transport system. Only 2 lines on the metro will be operating as usual, 11 lines will be closed, and 3 will be running during rush hour only. Regional train, bus and tram lines will also be badly hit. Last but not least, air travel will be affected. 3 of the unions representing ground crew for Air France have joined the strike, along with air traffic control staff. 20% of flights, most of them short-haul, have been cancelled on Thursday.
Nationwide protests are also ongoing in Colombia. On Wednesday, the country saw its 3rd national strike. For 2 weeks, Colombians have been taking to the streets to oppose President Ivan Duque's tax reform. The latest strike comes ahead of another round of dialogue between protest leaders and the government, but so far all efforts to negotiate have failed. Let's take a quick listen now to what some of the protesters had to say.
Vengo de Leticia, Amazonas.
I've come from Leticia in the Amazon. I'm here because I came to support the strike. We're all here protesting for a change, with a lot of hope that things change directions, because we can't stand for this anymore.
This government clearly has a national development plan that destroys the land and nature. It has a goal within the National Development Plan that allows for legal deforestation of nearly 1 million hectares during this government's term.
There's a lot of dissent, above all among the youth, and at the moment between the middle classes. It's no longer just about the union's goal to get workers out here. No, now everyone is out here.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there for now, but thanks for watching and stay with us. We'll have more news coming up soon.